Welcome to History Forensic. Imagine waking up to discover that one of the most powerful empires in human history just vanished. No witnesses, no scattered survivors, just an impenetrable wall of water and dead silence. We've all heard the legend, but what if the official story wasn't true? Tonight, we're reopening the ultimate historical cold case. We're investigating a civilization that supposedly held the ancient world in its grip, only to be swallowed whole by the ocean in a single day and night. As investigators, we have to ask the most unsettling question right out of the gate. What if the greatest disappearance in history never actually happened? Are we staring at a genuine sunken crime scene, or just the most successful piece of political fiction ever written?
Exactly. I mean, for centuries, explorers have literally dumped fortunes into finding Atlantis. They've dragged sonar across the Atlantic, the Mediterranean, even the Sahara Desert. But to actually solve this, we have to go back to the original crime scene, or rather, the original witness testimony.
Which brings us to Section 1 of the file, Plato's original dossier. It's time we analyze the prime evidence. You know, in the world of history forensics, when you only have one single witness on file, you have to scrutinize their statement word by word. Our sole primary source here is the Greek philosopher Plato. He claimed this whole account was passed down through ancient Egyptian records all the way back in 590 BC. Let's pull up his exact testimony. Quote, "In a single day and night of misfortune, all your warlike men in a body sank into the earth, and the island of Atlantis in like manner disappeared in the depths of the sea." It literally reads like a catastrophic incident report. He describes this massive, aggressive Western naval empire that was conquering Europe right up until this sudden apocalyptic wipeout. Right, and the sheer wealth he describes in this dossier is staggering. He maps out the central island with a magnificent temple of Poseidon, practically dripping in a legendary, highly valued metal called orichalcum. We're talking concentric rings of water and land, impenetrable architecture, a massive, highly coordinated military force. It sounds like an absolutely perfect, invincible civilization. But that's not the full story. Because as investigators, we have to question our witness's motive. Was Plato just reporting the hard facts, or was he burying a hidden message? And this is where it gets interesting. When you stack Plato's allegory up against historical reality, you hit a massive wall. On one side, you've got modern historians insisting Plato totally fabricated Atlantis as a literary device, a wealthy, arrogant naval power designed specifically to play the bad guy against his idealized, virtuous vision of ancient Athens. It's the ultimate hubris of nations warning. But even back in antiquity, investigators were completely split on this. You had guys like the 5th century philosopher Proclus, who firmly believed the Atlantis conflict was an entirely true history. He looked at the file and saw hard facts, not just a noble lie. So do we toss the case out or keep digging? We keep digging. Moving to Section 2, Real Cities Swallowed Alive. Let's look at the precedent for submerged empires. Because before we dismiss Atlantis as just a pure, fabricated myth, we have to establish historical precedent. If we're treating this as a true crime scene, we need to prove that the murder weapon, which here is sudden catastrophic geological subsidence, actually exists. Does the Earth actually swallow cities alive?
And tracing the timeline proves that, yeah, it absolutely does. Look at the file. 6900 BC, the Neolithic village of Atlat Yam settles near Haifa, eventually ending up 30 feet underwater. Then in 1600 BC, you have the devastating Minoan eruption at Thera. Fast forward to 1500 BC, the majestic Egyptian port of Thoni Serikalion gets totally obliterated by an earthquake and tsunami.
Even closer to our modern era? In 1692, Port Royal in Jamaica gets slammed by a massive earthquake, dragging 2/3 of the city beneath the waves. Sudden aquatic disappearance is a highly documented serial killer. The physical evidence pulled from these actual sunken sites is chilling. Down in Thonis Heracleion, divers uncovered 15-foot statues and over 100 shipwrecks just buried in the sediment. At Port Royal, they recovered an actual 17th century pocket watch permanently stopped at exactly 11:43 a.m. It literally froze the exact second of destruction.
Over in Atliam, you've got Neolithic stone circles and deep freshwater wells perfectly preserved deep underwater. And at Baye, they found sunken Roman pleasure grottos with intricate marble floors intact. For centuries, these places were completely dismissed as lost or mythological. What happened next shocked everyone, because underwater archaeologists actually tracked them down using modern forensics. So if we found them, why not Atlantis?
Exactly. Which brings us to Section 3, Prime Suspects and False Leads. We're officially tracking Atlantis across the globe. The tip line for this case is a mess. The false leads are literally everywhere. Antarctica, the Bahamas, Indonesia. But as serious researchers, we are only focusing on suspects with actual geological files attached to them. Let's cross-examine Plato's text with our first major suspect, the Minoan eruption on the island of Thera. Around 1600 BC, Thera suffered a massive level 7 volcanic explosion. We're talking one of the largest in human history. It completely devastated the settlement at Akrotiri and triggered massive tsunamis. A lot of forensic historians hypothesize that the sheer trauma of this very real, very horrific catastrophe eventually inspired Plato's myth. Now, the timeline doesn't perfectly match Plato's 9,000 years, but as a scientific inspiration, the profile is highly probable. But some investigators demand a strictly literal interpretation of the crime scene. Enter archaeologist Michael Donnellan. He's been running advanced sonar and LiDAR sweeps off the coast of Cadiz, Spain, a place that anciently went by the name Gades.
Right, which sits just west of the Strait of Gibraltar. That fits Plato's geographical coordinates almost too perfectly.
Donnellan claims his scans found concentric circular walls over 6 meters high, artificial canals, and massive rectangular stones that look violently displaced. His working theory? The entire complex was submerged by a catastrophic tsunami. And then everything changed when Donnellan put a date on those findings. He points the finger at exactly 11,600 years ago.
That specific number is crucial. It perfectly aligns with Plato's alleged timeline of 9,000 years before Solon's era. But it also lines up with the Younger Dryas, a very real, violently volatile period at the end of the last ice age that triggered sudden global climate shifts and rapidly rising sea levels. It's an incredibly compelling circumstantial case, even though the broader scientific community still hasn't ruled it a confirmed hit.
Let's jump to another major suspect hiding in the Atlantic, the Azores. Because out here, the physical geography slams right into some seriously dark cultural lore. There's this old Azorean folktale about a kingdom ruled by a guy named King Greywhite. Right, the story claims that because of a broken vow, a terrifying storm rolls in. Earthquakes, fire, and a massive tsunami completely ravage the land, sinking the kingdom and leaving only 9 rocky peaks sticking out of the ocean, which are the modern-day Azores. It perfectly echoes Plato's destruction narrative, but the geologists stepped in. They note these islands were actually steadily uplifted by volcanic activity, not sunken. The myth is beautiful, but the rocks tell a totally different story. Now, here's what most people never hear about. A suspect hiding in plain sight, not at the bottom of the ocean, but completely exposed in the sand. The Richet structure, otherwise known as the Eye of the Sahara.
Oh, the internet absolutely loves this theory. It's a 40-kilometer wide geological bullseye sitting out in Mauritania. And yeah, its concentric rings uncannily mirror Plato's blueprint for Atlantis. But when we look at the hard forensics, it's a 100-million-year-old eroded dome. There are 0 ruins, 0 artifacts, and absolutely no geological proof that the Atlantic Ocean ever reached that far inland during human history. It's a breathtaking anomaly, for sure, but ultimately, it's a false lead.
That leads us directly to Section 4, the final verdict. The psychological grip of a sunken myth. We've examined the prime suspects, the original testimony, and the historical precedents. To finally deliver a verdict on this cold case, we have to separate the psychological grip of this myth from cold, hard, forensic reality. Why do we keep sending submarines down into the dark to look for a philosopher's political metaphor? Plato scholar Julia Annis summarizes the scientific consensus flawlessly. Let me read this from the file. We have missed the point if instead of thinking about these issues, we go off exploring the seabed. The continuing misunderstanding of Plato as historian here enables us to see why his distrust of imaginative writing is sometimes justified. The real twist here isn't that Atlantis is hiding under the mud off the coast of Spain or buried beneath the sands of the Sahara. The twist is that Plato invented a brilliant thought experiment about power, corruption, and the hubris of nations, and for over 2 millennia, we mistook it for a literal treasure map. The forensic evidence overwhelmingly points to Atlantis being a masterfully crafted fiction, likely inspired by the real-world trauma of the Thera eruption. But maybe that's exactly why this file will never truly stay closed. Because the idea of a golden age getting wiped off the map in an instant, it taps into our deepest, darkest fears about our own civilization's fragility. If an empire that powerful, that advanced, could just vanish in a single night, could ours? It's a haunting thought, a chilling warning echoing all the way from 360 BC that we are somehow still trying to physically dig up today. Subscribe to History Forensic for more mysteries hidden beneath the pages of history.